What's up, people? I'm Shaggy, the Opinionated Hippie, and this is part 39 of my reviewing and then ranking Frank Zappa's guitar solos within the context, within the confines of a single album. Today, does humor belong in music? I'm going to talk about the 7 solos that are on here. I will rank them from my least favorite to my favorite, and then I will show you where this album ranks among the other 38 I've done. And I've delayed doing this album for a while because I don't have a lot of positive things to say. I've been sort of advocating for an 84 box set recently, like in other videos, and just when conversations come up about like future Zappa releases, like I'm thinking there's an 84 box set that could redeem this tour. And I'm thinking there's some really, really, really good November shows from 84, some really good solos that I think could like, all right, maybe have people reassess 84. For those like myself who kind of have a bad opinion of them, even though I know there was a month that is kind of good. But this album is just not a good representation of the 84 band. I ranked the solos like from memory, like the ones I know for sure I like 2 on this album. The other 5 took a guess, went back and listened to them and realized 2 things. I hate the sound of this band. I just Alan Zavad's sort of percussion, horn, keyboard. I mean, just everything about Zavad's keyboard sound doesn't work for me. Wackerman's drums don't work. It is so sterile. Even the like secret word usage on this album seems like, oh yeah, of course is where Frank's going to do something. And everything just seems very machine-like and rote. And in a sense, it's kind of an apt commentary on the 80s. And if it was intentional, it would be brilliant. But I'm not sure the sterility is intentional. So there's that problem. But I'm only focusing on the solos. So I'm trying to like ignore that and focus on the solos. But then the solos, like Wackerman's drum kit and all those ridiculous electronic sounds, the segues into 3 of the solos are atrocious. Momentum killers. They take a song that is a lot of momentum and then just stops and pretty much starts over in the solo, and it just doesn't work with this band. It doesn't work on this album, at least. And while I went back and listened, and yeah, the 2 songs at the top of the list, I still enjoy those. But those are because, well, I'll get to those. The other 5, I'm just like, okay, Frank's playing is good. I'll give him that. There's good ideas in here, but just the overall vibe kills me. Then I looked at where the solos were from. November, I would say anybody who's listened to like a vast majority of 84 tapes going from the beginning of the tour in August to the last tour in December would agree that November, there is a weird 2.5 week peak where Frank's just doing crazy stuff. It's really, really good stuff. Maybe the entire month. There's not a single solo from November on here. Couple solos from the very last show of the tour, which sounds like Frank's just like, he's done. From the week before that, there's a couple solos, and then a couple solos from early in the tour. There are a couple solos from like right towards the end of October, and one of those might just be the best solo on here. So we're already seeing that sort of shift in November. So this, to me, like I originally ranked this album number 36 among the original 55. I'm pretty sure whatever's at 37, 38, and 39 would pass that at this point. I really did not enjoy listening to this. That being said, I'm going to rank the solos anyways, and let you know my favorite from 7 to 1. So enough yakking. I'll put the list up on the screen afterwards so you can see it. Number 7 is Penguin in Bondage. I usually love this kind of solo. This is a easy meat wrapped in a penguin in bondage costume, outfit, disguise. There's no connection between the song and the solo. We just go into this crazy, easy meat from like the 80s field where all these chaotic things are happening and Frank's doing bursts of energy to get through them. It almost sounds like he's playing a video game where he has to just like go slow and then go fast and then go slow and then go fast and like dodge flying keyboards and electronics and kind of cool bass parts. But it just, I don't know, it doesn't work. Maybe because the artificiality of just the drums, the percussion energy. Maybe Frank is just too paint by numbers at this point. I don't know. Maybe because this one does, I think this is an end of the tour one. December 18th, the tour would end December 23rd. There's just something about it that just yeah, it just lacks, it lacks something, and it just seems, it is the type of thing I love. I love it in Easy Meat. Like the early 80s Easy Meat solos where this kind of thing is happening, I think are some of his best playing. It does not do it for me in this solo. This solo just really bores me for some reason. Number 6, Whipping Post. Dweezil shows up. It's a shred fest. They go into the, again, the solo section has nothing to do with the actual song. They finish the song, the dun 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 dun. No, man, I don't, no. And then we just get that sort of dirty blues, Frank trying to play that. Dweezil comes in, they battle each other. There's some interesting noises, some interesting textures. If I was in the audience at the time and this was the encore, I'd be having the time of my life. It'd be loud, it'd be indulgent, it'd be headbanging, but I don't want to listen to it. I don't want to sit through a CD and then have to listen to this. Though it's not that horrible, but being that it's the last song on a CD, I'm doing this for most of the time. It's not quite as satisfying as what I'm looking for. What did I just do? I just did something else. Oh, Them or Us. Like I think I ranked Whipping Post fared much better on that album. And so going into this one and like revisiting this, I was like, oh, no, man, you've done much better on a song I already don't like. So anyways, number 6 is Whipping Post. Sorry for being so negative. Number 5, Zoot Allures. Good moments in this. This one isn't all that bad. It's missing a little bit. Maybe it's a little too short. I think, in like early 81, especially 82, the Zoot Allures tended to like, it's that wide open space where Frank can explore and kind of dance around and kind of do whatever he wants. And the rhythm section is not going to get in his way. Not too aggressive ever, but always very exploratory, very out there, almost like a Grateful Dead Estimated Prophet type jam, that kind of energy. But this one is good. It's solid. It just maybe feels a little like incomplete. Like he didn't make a statement. Had some good ideas, but he wasn't able to like tie them all together into like a cohesive whole. This is from a late October show. So as far as Zoot Allures and where he's going, he hadn't nailed it here. The bass playing, however, again, Scott Tunis, killing it all over this thing. Wackerman's probably killing it too, but I don't know because it's all these electronic drums. Number 4, Hot Plate Heaven at the Green Hotel. Pretty good solo. It's kind of a 2-part solo. It's your typical, he starts off with this really long Big Swifty quote after completely abandoning the energy of the song and just kind of starting from like nothing. This album frustrates me. And then he has some like just kind of shredding for a while, that sort of Hot Plate Heaven again, kind of like Zoot Allures and the landscape, a little more chaotic, a little more high energy. Then there's this really nice tempo shift where things get a little more upbeat and also a little bit like twerkier and tighter. And Frank solos over that for pretty much the second half of the solo. And that's actually really good. And I think that is a sort of a tempo change or like an abandoning of a vamp that actually really, really works. I think it reminds me of Butter and Cannons. Is that the one that's on Transfusion that's just chaotic and all over the place? This sounds like we're eventually going to get to that chaotic and all over the place type energy. We don't in this song, but when is this from? It's from towards the end of the tour. So this is probably one of the last times they really started to get really kind of funky and weird and upbeat. And the second half of this solo does work, but takes a long time to get there. And considering that the segue from the actual song itself into the solo robs the solo of its momentum, I'm bitter. And I'm like, at least you could do this. So I can't really rank the solo higher because of the disappointment of the first half. Number 3 is Trouble Every Day. The worst of the segues from song into solo. Like, I think one of the highlights of Frank's career are the live 74 More Trouble Every Days. Those are just absolutely fantastic. It's like rock energy, slightly proggy. The energy into the solo was fantastic. There was something rock star epic about it. Now we get this perfectly played, synthetic sounding Trouble Every Day. And as soon as we get into the solo section, the band drops out and starts going beep, beep, beep. We get this loop that just plays this one chord over and over while the band does this bare minimal stuff. Horrible segue. almost immediately the solo redeems itself, and there's a lot of really good ideas in here, a lot of really nice melodic runs. I think it is really, really interesting. But that segue from the song into the solo is like just a dagger to the heart. This is my heart on this side. Um, uh, but it is a pretty good solo. And I have to say, by the end of it, I'm like, okay, that's a good solo. But then we get this like sterile segue back into the, after the solo. And it's just like we're back into this sterile 84 land. But anyways, not a bad solo. Number 2, What's New in Baltimore. Not one of the best What's New in Baltimore solos. I think if we were to rank all, this is from the last show of the tour, if we were to rank all What's New in Baltimore solos from ever, this might be towards the bottom. But it's a What's New in Baltimore solo. And that melody, that sort of patriotic, uplifting thing, just the way Frank attacks it. And even if he's only doing the bare minimum, it's a What's New in Baltimore solo. And as long as he doesn't mess up, as long as he keeps playing the entire time, as long as he's hitting that uplifting energy that this song has, it's going to be a good solo. And so What's New in Baltimore, simply by virtue of it being What's New in Baltimore and Frank not absolutely blowing the solo or rewriting the segue into the guitar solo, it's at number 2. Well-deserved. It showed the rest of the songs how it's supposed to be done. You don't have to get too crazy. You don't have to reinvent vamps. Just give us something beautiful like that. Number 2. That means number 1, Let's Move to Cleveland. I would say that if the Let's Move to Clevelands are long in 84 because Zavad gets a long solo. Usually Wackerman gets a really way too many electronic drum solo, being that they're all electronic drums. Frank has a solo. And Frank's solos, I think that, a lot of those solos have been released were on guitar, like Let's Move to Cleveland solos, just taken out of the solo section. I think the vamp that's used in the Let's Move to Cleveland solos, you don't even need Let's Move to Cleveland. You can play like You Are What You Is, Mud Club, The Meek, then drop a solo, a Let's Move to Cleveland solo, just play that vamp and let him solo for 4 or 5 minutes and then go back into like Heavenly Bank Account or whatever. Like, I think that works. Like, I don't even think you need the song. Like, the little solo vamp, the sort of environment in which the sort of Let's Move to Cleveland solos function can stand alone. To me, it's that, you would know it if you've heard guitar, but it's that do, do, do. You get these like what sound like Space Invader sound effects, like shooting across the thing. And then you get Wackerman's doing weird stuff and Tunis is doing weird stuff. And it kind of sounds chaotic, like there's a space battle going on around. And Frank has to like navigate through this battle, but he's not as in Penguin in Bondage where he's like, okay, patient, patient, now go for it, fast. Patient, patient, now go fast. Like he's trying not to get hit. This is a Frank who's fully engaging and dancing around and sometimes attacking and sometimes just dancing all around. And every one of these Cleveland solos, especially in like October through November, just has really, really interesting ideas in it. Even the earlier ones do. It's a really neat vamp. It's sort of Frank's like what he did with King Kong in 71, Dupree's in 73 and 74, Zoodalures in 75, 76, Wild Love, Yo Mama. Those solos where it's just like anything goes. And while this vamp is a lot more structured and has a lot more going on than a lot of those earlier examples, I think Frank feels like this is my freedom spot. This is my place where I really, really can start to push the envelope and people can do crazy things or I can take chances. And it works on this one. This is a late October, I think like October 25th. So we're getting close to November, but these would even get better in November. So, but yeah, that's it. That's what they look like right there in written order. I just have a lot of problems with the sound of this album. And every time I always return to it going, yeah, you know what? The solos are actually pretty good. But then when I'm in the moment listening to it and these horrible, horrible segues happen, I'm just like, I don't care if the solo is any good. There is such an artificiality to this that does not work, that works in other instances of Zappa, and it just doesn't work here for me. But anyways, where does it fall among the other albums? I'm still putting it pretty high up, and mainly because it kind of does remind me, it's right above Funky Nothingness, because it kind of does remind me of Funky Nothingness. Like, I really enjoy the solos when I focus in on them in both cases. But then I think there are limitations to the band. In Funky Nothingness, there are limitations to Frank's playing. In this one, there's limitations just because of that horrible drum sound and his desire to like rob every song of its energy. Like, yeah, Frank's shooting himself in the foot in this one. And in Funky Nothingness, it's not his fault. But these two kind of, I have mixed feelings about both these albums. I definitely like Funky Nothingness better than Does Humor Belong in Music, but I do think Does Humor Belong in Music does have some redeeming solos, and the Let's Move to, and some of them are actually pretty good. I just this album just leaves a really 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 bad taste in my mouth. But the playing's not as bad as I'm making it out to be. But yeah, okay, that's it. Let me know what you think about these solos. Let me know what you think about this album, all that kind of stuff. I still think an 84, a November box set, the right songs picked, the right show picked, could like help us redeem 84 in some sense. I don't think this album does it. I have a problem with this album. But I'm sorry for being so negative. Go listen to it anyway. Go listen to the Let's Move to Cleveland. That solo is fantastic. And What's New in Baltimore is always fantastic, that solo. Anyways, that's all I got. Peace. Thanks for watching. Subscribe, like, share, do all that stuff you're supposed to do. And talk to you later, people. Peace.